Hi, friends. Welcome back to Notes to My Nervous System, a podcast about understanding your nervous system so you can move through hard moments with a little more calm and a lot less self-blame. I'm Erin, a mom, a therapist, and creator of the Mind Circuit app. It's a simple nervous system-friendly tool for moments when your body needs support before your brain can catch up. Hey, I'm talking with Keri Mariano, a yoga somatic therapist who's been in the field for 10 plus years. She very much speaks to the nervous system and has some exciting tools and techniques. And I'm excited to have this conversation with her. So thank you for joining us.
I'm super excited because I'm saying this right, Mariano?
Marino.
Anybody who listens to my podcast knows that me and words sometimes have difficulties. Today we're talking about women and performing peace and acting like you have it all together, even though I don't know anybody who really does, to be quite honest. We're talking about somatic safety and the nervous system and all that good stuff today. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always so fun to get to meet somebody new. I love that you're local to my area and sort of the region. And so it's fun to just connect with you today. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Anybody who listens to the podcast or knows me knows I like to just jump in. You talk, if I'm correct, a lot about like somatic safety and being aware of what's on the inside and not masking as much.
Yeah.
What started you down that path and what made you recognize the need of that somatic safety, of the nervous system, of that type of language and understanding?
Yeah. To be clear, those are not the words that I would use to describe my work.
Please.
They fit into the realm of my work. Does that make sense? Like it's totally my wheelhouse and I would use different terms, which because I have a different background, right? I'm a somatic yoga therapist for the listeners that don't know me. And I specifically mentor women who are already on a growth and healing journey. So it's self-aware women that are really like you've done therapy and you know, as a therapist, therapy is a life-changing experience if you have a good therapist and aligned psychotherapy tools, right?
You have a good match, you have a clear sense of goals. But I always say therapy is a piece of the puzzle. Like anything in life, you need a variety of things. I wouldn't tell people just fruits, right? You need a variety.
I say the same. And so my work really is in tandem with that experience of like a therapist has very specific tools and gifts. And then I, as a somatic yoga therapist, bridge a lot of the gaps for people. So that's a little bit of background. And I got into this work pursuing yoga and specifically a personal practice. So I was a 19-year-old with a whole lot of mental health and physical struggles, well beyond what would be reasonable for a 19-year-old to have. I'd had 3 surgeries by the time I was 19. And so I was a really big seeker. And by nature, I'm an optimizer. I don't know if you know about that scale. I can't remember the name of it right now. Gosh, it's one of those surveys that you can take. And so an optimizer is in my DNA, it's like genetic code. And so I'm here to make things better. And so I was like, not going to accept that I was suffering like this and I wanted better. And I found yoga as part of that journey. And then because I was suffering so greatly, I had a lot of experiences that were leading me to seek help. So mental health, physical health, like chiropractic, massage, things like that. And all those things would help me, but they wouldn't durably stick. It was like I would get the experience of a breakthrough or a physical relief, but then the symptom would come back. And so I start with yoga, and suddenly that reinforms the entire relationship that I have with myself. I suddenly knew what it felt like to be in my own body. I knew that I had power and resources inside of me to help myself feel better, feel calmer, feel more connected, less stressed, and so on. And so it started, this somatic safety started for me in looking for answers and then finding them within yoga in a way that seeking external support could not give me. And so because I was able to create my own experience of somatic safety through yoga, which, by the way, I don't know how much you know about yoga or your audience knows about yoga, but it is so much more than just physical movement or exercise, right? Like yoga is this varied diet of practice and philosophy. Everything from a code of ethics to how do we work with our humanness? How do we work with emotions? How do we actually move in alignment towards what is good for us? How do we feel at home in our body? How do we clear the channel of the energy that's blocking us? How do we work on the nervous system? It's all of that together. And so yoga is kind of like the OG somatic therapy, if I'm being totally just unabashedly honest about it. And I've experienced that myself. I think countless other women have experienced that as well. And not just women, all people, all bodies, but my focus is on women. So that experience of being safe in my own body, being connected to body, mind, and soul enabled me to actually see the ways that I was masking in my life. It enabled me to actually understand that I had feelings, because I was one of those like high functioning women who can do a lot and just appears calm and together all the time, but like secretly feels lonely and needs help and is numb inside and disconnected from some of those like things that trauma takes you away from. And so there was a lot of healing work that needed to happen, but yoga allowed me to actually feel safe enough to open those doors inside of me. And then each time you open a door, you realize something new about yourself. And it could be that you experience pleasure you didn't even know was possible, or that you're experiencing better in your life, in relationship or in career, whatever it is, more than you ever would have dreamed for yourself. But it could also be like, oh my gosh, the way that I was mothered really wasn't in alignment for myself. Or, oh my gosh, this chronic low back pain is totally a psycho-emotional thing. It has nothing to do with the physical, right? So it allows you to unmask and learn and then respond to what you find there.
All from yoga.
Not all from yoga. Nothing is all one answer, right? It's many paths up the mountain. So yoga therapy for me was the doorway in. And then I reached a point where obviously I needed mental health support. And so psychotherapy has been a huge part of my journey, and also specifically like trauma focused and emotional well-being focused trauma psychotherapy. But then also I went to school for nutrition. So I know how to nourish my body well. I'm married to a chef. Like I can eat healthy food on an accessible basis. There's all these other things that help bridge the gap. What you learn, what you expose yourself to energetically, what you consume in terms of media, what you say no to, your boundaries. So no, it wasn't all yoga. And there was a point in my journey where I realized just professionally and individually that yoga didn't cover all the bases of what I really felt it needed to for people, for women, because that's my person that I work with. And so that's where in my own healing, I reached for more of a somatic approach.
Okay.
Because I was getting a lot of the emotional and processing in psychotherapy, right? And then I needed all this somatic. I needed this like deeper body-based healing, because our body heals using a totally different code than our mind heals.
Mm-hmm. I do a type of therapy called EMDR, and it's understanding all the different ways that the body interacts and the complexity of it. And the way we heal isn't just one way only with thoughts and emotions. It's also what the body holds, how you internalize that, how you make it about yourself and carry all those narratives about yourself that are so very negative. And it's incredible the way the body can heal and protect itself. And then we as humans seem to just turn that off. It's like we hit middle school, high school, and all of a sudden we're just walking around with like heads and we're ignoring the rest of our body. And then we wonder why we don't feel so good.
Yeah, I feel like that's really insightful, what you just said about that middle school, high school time being a time of disconnect from our bodies.
We sit so much. There's no recess. There's no play. There's no art generally.
Yeah, the body becomes a vehicle for acceptance and performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we're mad that we don't have great sex. And we're like, it's all these different things that happen when we're disconnected with our bodies. And then you introduce something like, for women, the hormonal shifts of becoming a mother and postpartum and perimenopause and menopause. And it's just a recipe for women to be even more frustrated and disconnected with their bodies and ultimately themselves unless they are proactively choosing to have a relationship with their body that is based on more than that acceptance, performance, and like fitting your body into a box.
So someone listening who feels that disconnection from their body, or they're suspicious, thinking that maybe I'm not as connected as I thought I was. What's some small ways that you would suggest starting down that path?
Sure. So curiosity is always the first step. So can you be curious about a different way of feeling about your body or experiencing your body? And so I really love mindfulness as a doorway into this. And for the listeners that aren't aware of what mindfulness is, it's literally a practice of paying attention on purpose. And there's some tenets, like there's some agreements that you make with yourself. And one is that you're going to have a beginner mind. So you're going to act like everything is brand new, like you've never seen your hand before. Holy crap, I have a hand. Like it's incredible. Look at these fingers, they bend. And then it's also this state of neutrality, which I wasn't really modeling there because I was modeling some excitement. But neutrality is just this like, you're just interested and you're curious. And so how can you be open to experiencing your body a little bit differently in small moments? So a good example is when you're washing your hair, you're massaging your scalp. There's different textures and sensations to be felt. Be drinking a cup of tea.
Well, I like that. That's very reasonable. It's something that one can do and achieve. And I think it's always important to come up with some small first steps to help yourself. When we come up with too many steps all at once, too big of a quick change, it never sticks. And we just go back to our old pattern. So I like the idea. I think I'm going to steal of just getting into bed at night and giving myself a moment to recognize that, especially when you have nice new clean sheets, how cozy it is and warm and safe it just feels in that moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that what people overcomplicate with somatic type of therapies and even yoga is that actually these things are literally the foundation of all. Because if we just jump right ahead, for example, to some advanced breathing technique or like a somatic shaking practice, we've skipped the steps that actually wire your nervous system to feel safe. Like it starts with just having a real relationship to this type of work, this kind of simple practice could do. Simple, but like very expansive in what it does for you.
Explain a little more about the wiring with the nervous system and the steps that are being missed.
So for context, I know you know this, but I'll say it for the listeners. Your nervous system is a software system inside of you that's wired to protect you. And so it mines past experiences and current reality to operate behind the scenes, perceiving what is safe, what is a threat, and then what responses we need to have in your body and mind and thoughts and choices and behaviors and all of that in order for you to meet yourself in a way that keeps you safe and protected. And so that's your nervous system's job. But yoga reminds us that actually our job is to connect with our higher self and our purpose and our soul and the present moment. And so yoga is kind of like saying, we love you, nervous system, and thank you so much because you're wonderful and you do so many great things for me. And also like, hold up, the boss here is actually your highest self. And so you have to bridge that gap though, because you can't just decide highest self is going to enjoy so much the experience of getting in my bed tonight. Your body needs to learn how to experience safety in that situation. And so you wire that up through repeated calm practice or play even. We learn faster through play. So it's like, how can I gamify this experience? How can I just repeat it over and over again? Because then my nervous system learns, I feel safe in this environment. I feel safe with this context. I can come back to this again and again. And to use yoga as an example, if you practice yoga, the first time you practice, you're largely going to be super confused. You're going to experience a bunch of weird sensations in your body in an unfamiliar environment with people if you're not alone with the teacher or doing it through a recording.
And I did it myself, flat on my ass.
And how did you feel in that moment when you fell flat on your ass in yoga class?
I had a moment of embarrassment, and then I just kind of laughed about it because I fall. It happens.
You're human. Yeah, for sure you do, right?
Mhm.
So it's about bridging these gaps and teaching your body through gentle, repeated exposure over time that this too is wonderful. And this too is something that we can trust. And this too is something where my body and my highest self can actually meet in the middle. And my nervous system knows it's wired itself up to identify in its software system that this is something I can enjoy.
Feeling those signals to the nervous system before you jump ahead of time. It kind of reminds me of like when a toddler is learning how to like walk.
Mm-hmm.
And getting yeah, lots of practice, learning to trust yourself, being okay with falling and failure because it's just another way to learn.
Mm-hmm. And even being witnessed in that.
Yes. And then we hit middle school, high school, adulthood, and it's like, that's too childish. That's not the way we should learn. It's not appropriate. And I don't know why we do that to ourselves as a society because it's exactly the way we do learn.
Yeah. Well, and it discounts all of the body wisdom when we make our body act like a robot. And I think some of that is rooted in like patriarchal influence and capitalism and this performance and this need to like for a female to fit in a masculine world. We're kind of taught to show up in that way. And that is inherently disconnected from like our divine feminine essence of connection to nature and cycles and intuition and body and nurturance. And so our society, I don't want to not name the systems part of the conversation for women and for your listeners because we exist in a society that rewards us for that. And that reward is very important for our safety, let's be honest. And also that there is room for both. There's room for both a connection to your body and a feminine, and to allow your nervous system, for example, to process in the way that an animal body does, because that's actually like how we don't store trauma in our body and nervous systems is we get support and we process through our animal body and we reframe cognitively or whatever it is. That's so helpful.
Performing peace version of you that a lot of women have started with, still are doing.
Mm-hmm.
What helps you to recognize when you're like going into that mode again? Because as aware as I try to be, I don't know if you find this, but it's still something that's been like hammered in. And so when I'm not mindful, I will start to go down that path.
Yeah. Are you into like human design or astrology or Enneagram, any of that stuff?
Oh, I like the Enneagram. The other ones, I haven't had a lot of time to research, to be quite honest. I have learned in life that anything that can help us better understand ourselves is always beneficial.
Yeah.
And science may not have proved it yet, but it doesn't mean it's not going
Sure.
to know that I don't know it all.
Yeah, thank God. That would be a whole lot to hold. The all-knowing. I think that for a lot of women, those things can be a sort of roadmap to know. Like, for example, I like human design. I don't claim to understand it all, but I do know that like I'm a generator. And so I'm going to respond to things. And so part of what I've learned is that in the like performing peace realm, a lot of my hindsight actually comes from taking an action and then reflecting on it and deciding, I don't know why I did that. Or maybe that just really wasn't the kind of way that I want to be. And so I just know that about myself. And like you, no matter how self-aware I am, I will still sometimes go down paths where I perform peace in response to something. And then I can look back and know, that was not it. And choose again. And then I think part of that like beauty of the human brain and neuroscience is that then each time we have that light bulb moment, that then becomes part of the neural pathway. And so the next time I am presented with that situation, I can be more resourced in myself and I can tune in more to my own inner knowing because I now have practice at going down that path before.
You gave yourself permission to think about, did you like your response, your choice, or not? If not, what are some other options? But it is very hard to create the time and space, especially for women, to provide that for ourselves.
I think that's where, not to just like bang the yoga drum on repeat, but like also to bang the yoga drum on repeat. Like this is why I believe that women need some form of contemplative practice that builds self-awareness and allows their body to move energy. And it does not have to be yoga. Like it might be Tai Chi or Qigong or something else, whatever it is for you, dancing. But it's that like practice of dialing in to me becomes non-negotiable and essential in order to thrive in this world.
I think that's very important. Before we run out of time, I always like to ask my guests, what is one thing that you, if you could, tell your younger self, a piece of advice or a mantra or just a feeling statement that would have helped you when you were younger than us? Our viewers, our listeners, with that little nugget.
I think the number one thing I would tell my past self is that it's not all her fault. I think that that's just such a fundamental thing I've needed to receive so many times in my life is the knowing that it's actually not my fault. And part of that, like, and when I talk about it not being my fault, it's like the ways that I feel insecure in relationship or in my own body or in expression of emotion and intimacy or around money or whatever it is where the insecurities arise, that it's simply not your fault that you feel that way and that it comes from somewhere and it comes from being a part of a system or a culture in terms of how you were raised or religious programming or what you were modeled about embodiment or what possibilities you could express and explore for yourself versus what like guardrails you had to stay in to be loved, safe, and accepted by the people who mattered most. Like now I have so much knowledge and wisdom around what is possible and what is not mine that past self me did not know. And I think like as I continue to build relationship with my inner child and my inner teenager and all the past me's, to heal what they need healing. It's a lot of it is around that. Like, it's not your fault, love. And like, you can let me into your heart cave and we can just love on that, all that needs loving on for sure.
I love that, especially that piece about what's yours and what isn't yours. So many women, especially in the U.S., just take on everything. Everything's theirs to fix, to organize, to make better. And there's not even that pause, that question of, is it really mine? Do I want it to be mine?
Yeah. Especially our empaths. Holy moly. Triple the ante for the empaths listening because it's just so encoded in an empath to just like assume it is all mine. It is all my fault. Everyone is going to this or that. And so it for sure is something that like is part of that system that we're in that reaffirms that. And then our adaptive responses, our trauma responses kick in to say like, well, baby, let's run with it. Let's go. Like we know how to survive in this way. And a lot of what you do and what I do is really empowering women to peel back those layers and to get to the core truth that lives inside and then to be able to play with that and experience pleasure through that and channel joy and connection and wealth and health and all of the things that just liberate us to lean into.
A very interesting conversation. I've quite enjoyed this. If somebody wants to learn more about your practice or wants to contact you, how do they find you? What are some of the services you offer?
Yes. So you can find me. I actually have a podcast called the Nourished Woman podcast or on Instagram or YouTube at the Nourished Woman. And then things that I offer are direct one-to-one services. So direct somatic yoga therapy and mentoring for women. And I'm currently full for January, but if somebody, I don't know when this episode comes out, somebody could reach out about February. And then I also offer something called the Nourished Woman Sanctuary. And so it is an app, and it really entails somatic yoga therapy and nervous system medicine and inner work and women's health. It's kind of like bridging all of those together, but how the method with which you receive that is through a yoga practice. So you're just doing a yoga practice, but actually what's happening is nervous system medicine and emotional processing and all of the work to really just reconnect to your soul and feel into your body. And so it's this medicinal experience through yoga. They're 15 to 30 minutes, and women can do them from all over the world. And so I've made these teachings bite-sized chunks so real women can do them. Because let's be honest, who's going to do an hour-long practice like you were talking about? We need 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
No, it's so important. It's why I did my app too, is just so we could have a quick little micro reset, because I would love to have this world of we all have time and we don't work as much and we're more in tune with ourselves, but that's not the reality. So I like that approach of, okay, what is the reality and how can I actually help?
Yeah.
Within the constraints. Hopefully it won't always be like this, but right here and right now, what can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. What's going to make a difference to me in this moment versus what's this like idealistic image of what I'm going to do that I'm actually never going to fucking do because.
Exactly. I'll start it, New Year's resolution, and then I'll end it by February or March.
Yeah.
And I'll beat myself up for a couple months after that, too.
Truth.
Before we go, the Nourished Woman, explain the how you came with that and the app and how that came together. I'm very curious.
So I've been in my industry for 16 years. I've run a private practice that whole time. And so I know my audience really, really well. And I created the membership because I was seeing this gap between the work my clients and I were doing in session. And then I was making all these individual practice libraries for all of them, like on Google Drive. And so they had this like body of personalized work. And what I realized was what I was doing with this person, actually this person needed. And then like there was all this, I needed to be able to share everything amongst all of my clients and also bring them together because we heal in community, and being around other women who are growing and healing and value yoga and spirituality and nervous system medicine, like it automatically deepens the impact of you doing the work.
Group therapy, group anything, it has been shown time and time again how important it is, how beneficial it is to have the group, and how much quicker you can move through things and heal if you have that group.
Yeah.
It's just, I love groups.
Yeah. I mean, literally just like the mirror neuron theory of like they're learning through each other's stories. And so, and even just like the honest realness of like some women coming in and being like, I haven't been here in 3 months because I just didn't do yoga for 3 months. And then here I am again. Like that too gets to be accepted and normalized because we go through times when we're more or less connected to these things, and that's a natural ebb and flow. And also it gets to still be a priority. So the Nourished Woman was really cultivating an archetype for my clients of what they wanted to put at the center of their own growth and healing journey. And that is the Nourished Woman. And then it just follows my method as a somatic yoga therapist of what I help with.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all this wealth of knowledge and tools out there.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really fun to get to know you today and to share in this.
What Keri named, that is not all your fault. So important to be able to hear that, feel that, and say that to ourselves. That is not all our fault. It never is. But for whatever reason, we as women, we hold it all and we take responsibility for all. So that was an important message for all of us to hear and to feel. You can check out more about Keri at her podcast, The Nourished Woman. It's on Instagram and YouTube at The Nourished Woman, and she offers one-to-one yoga therapy for those who are interested. And as always, thank you to my listeners for coming today, for showing up, for giving us your time to listen to Notes to My Nervous System. Thank you again for joining Notes to My Nervous System. If this spoke to you, please leave a review and subscribe. It's the only way people find small, independent podcasts like these. But before you go, let's take one small second. Deep breath in. Let's just notice our body, your feet on the floor, your breath, the chair holding you. Nothing to fix, just letting your nervous system know it made it through another moment. If this episode helped you feel even a little more steady, that matters. That's what this show is here for. And if you want more of those gentle science-based resets between episodes, you can find my app, Mind Circuit Ease, in the App Store or Google Play. It's a quiet place to help your brain come back online when life feels too loud. Thank you again for being here. Your nervous system deserves